Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. In his weekly audience speech on Wednesday, Pope Francis prayed for Israel, Palestine and Ukraine, urging people not to forget those who suffered the evil of war. He urged the faithful to go to the crib and asked Jesus for peace, emphasising the link between the nativity scene and efforts for peace worldwide. On the 7th of October, Hamas fighters attacked southern Israel, killing 1,200 people and taking 240 hostages. In response, Israel launched a military attack on the Hamas-run Gaza Strip, resulting in the deaths of thousands of people. Meanwhile, a hospital director in Gaza has acknowledged that because his facility is a so-called safe place, the terror group utilised it to further its military activities. The head of the Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza, Ahmad Kalot, revealed as much to Israeli forces during questioning. According to local media, another Catholic bishop was arrested by Nicaraguan police on Wednesday. This makes him the second bishop to be taken into custody as part of the government's ongoing campaign against Catholic organizations and their leaders in the Central American nation. Bishop Isidro Mora of the Ciuna Diocese was imprisoned for the offence of praying for incarcerated Bishop Rolando Alvarez, who is among the most well-known opponents of President Daniel Ortega. Meanwhile, in Geneva, Nada al-Nashif, who is the United Nations Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights, painted a grim picture of the nation. She said Nicaragua is far away from the rule of law. The International Committee of the Red Cross declared on Tuesday that it was closing its humanitarian operation in Nicaragua at the request of the administration in Managua. The capital's Red Cross office has already closed. Yekaterina Duntsova, who is a former television journalist, announced her candidacy on Wednesday to run in the March presidential election in Russia, which President Vladimir Putin is expected to win by a landslide. In a Reuters interview last month, 40-year-old Duntsova demanded that the conflict in Ukraine end and that political prisoners, including opposition leader Alexei Navalny, be freed. To officially participate in the election, she turned in her papers to the Central Electoral Commission. 71-year-old Mr. Putin is running for a second consecutive 6-year term as president, though he first won the office in 1999. There is no well-established opposition figure in Russia, apart from Alexei Navalny, who is serving terms totaling more than 30 years in prison. Other prominent Kremlin critics are either behind bars or outside the nation due to fear of arrest. Ukrainians are getting ready to celebrate Christmas for the first time under a new calendar, marking another step toward eliminating all signs of Russian control in the country. The majority of Ukrainians identify as Orthodox Christians, and the nation's largest church decided to abandon the Julian calendar earlier this year. Russia still uses that calendar, which marks Christmas on the 7th of January. Moscow's February 2022 attack sparked many Ukrainians to reject vestiges of Russian culture. Ukraine has also shown interest in joining the European Union, with a potential membership being viewed as a crucial affirmation of what they believe is their country's historical place in Europe. Data from the Statistical Institute of the Polish Catholic Church indicate that despite a slight increase, mass attendance is still below the level recorded before the COVID-19 pandemic. Although a significant rise in attendance was expected last year, it was much below the pre-COVID peak of 36.9%. In 2022, 13.9% of Polish Catholics received the Eucharist, up slightly from 13.8% in 2019. However, the Poland Foundation reports a long-term decline in the number of Polish Catholics attending Mass, which currently stands at 16.7%. The Catholic population has also suffered a decrease, as it has dropped from 88% to 71% in the last 10 years. Samira Sabjan, an Iranian woman imprisoned for murdering her husband, was executed on Wednesday. That's despite appeals by the United Nations and various human rights organisations. Iran Human Rights, which is a Norway-based group, stated that she had been subjected to gender apartheid, child marriage and domestic violence. They said that the Iranian leader Ali Khamenei and other members of the Islamic Republic should be held accountable for her death. Sabjan was forced into a marriage at the age of 15 and had 2 small children at the time of her arrest. On Wednesday, Pope Francis defended members of an Italian organisation that rescues migrants at sea, even though they are accused of encouraging illegal immigration. On February the 14th, a court will decide the outcome of the trial of Luca Casarini and 5 other members of the non-profit organisation Mediterranea Saving Humans. During his weekly audience at the Vatican, the Holy Father said that the organisation does a good job by rescuing a lot of people. He said they go out at sea to save poor people who flee from slavery in Africa. In 2020, the group's vessel picked up 27 migrants from a Danish cargo ship and transported them to Italy. The company was charged in Ragusa, Italy, for this operation. An amendment to the Budget Guidelines Law of 2024, approved by Brazil's National Congress on Tuesday, prohibits the use of tax money to promote, encourage or finance abortions, except in cases authorised by law. Federal Deputy Eduardo Bolsonaro sponsored the amendment, which was adopted by 43 to 26 in the Senate and by 305 to 141 in the chamber. Mr. Bolsonaro claims that the amendment's goals intend to avoid the attack on the family. The text that Congress has adopted now awaits presidential approval. Sebastian Lai, who is the son of the jailed British citizen Jimmy Lai, has criticised his father's trial, which began on Monday in Hong Kong, as a textbook show trial designed to intimidate Beijing's critics. Mr. Lai, who's a lifelong opponent of the Chinese Communist Party, is facing life imprisonment on charges described as politically motivated after 3 years of incarceration. Sebastian Lai emphasised the trial's unfairness in an interview with the UK-based Independent. Lai's lawyer characterises it as an act of censorship and intimidation by a bully regime, targeting him for his journalism and pro-democracy activities. UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron on Sunday urged Chinese authorities to release Mr. Lai, denouncing the politically motivated persecution. Republican District Attorney Joel Urmansky of Sheboygan County has appealed a Dane County judge's ruling that an 1849 state statute does not prohibit abortion, allowing the practice to resume in Wisconsin. The appeal was filed with a 3-judge panel in Waukesha, where the majority is conservative-leaning. The case may move to the state Supreme Court, which has a Liberal majority, however. Following the US Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade nationwide in June 2022, Wisconsin clinics had been closed. However, after Judge Diane Schlipper's order, Planned Parenthood reopened 2 clinics in Madison and plans for another, citing the 1849 Act, which says it prohibits attempted assault on a pregnant woman, but does not mention the term abortion. In Manipur in India, 87 victims of recent violence, including a 1-month-old baby, were laid to rest in a mass burial. The funeral was organised by the joint philanthropic organisation at Peace Ground under tight security measures. The deceased belonged to the Kukizomi community and were recovered from morgues in Churachandpur and Impal. The Supreme Court intervened to ensure that the victims had dignified funerals. The Taang National Liberation Army has recaptured Nam Shan in their fight against Myanmar's military dictatorship. Since October, ethnic militias have begun an offensive to depose the administration, displacing almost 660,000 people. The conflict has affected many aspects of society, including religious organisations. The Burmese army is now invading the mostly Christian city of Loikaw, forcing Bishop Celso Ba Shwe and other religious officials to seek refuge. Despite the difficulties being faced, the bishop has urged people to remain optimistic and unified. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again next time for more. And do remember, in the meantime, you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.